Yes, sir. Welcome back to another Chop It Die film session. I am your host of the Chop It Die podcast, Molly Maul, Coach Maul, Hen Dog Maul, all that good stuff, man. Listen, we're breaking down the offense today in this mini film session. You can go several ways with how this offense went, right? You can start at the quarterback position. How good of a job or how bad of a job did Sam Howell do, right? What the offensive line looked like, right? And let's look into the run game. Was it more on one unit or was it more on the other unit? Or was it a combination of both? Did the quarterback get him in good looks to be successful in the run game? Who knows? Or you can talk about Eric Bieniemy. And that's what I'm choosing to do in this episode, man. There was a couple concepts that I like, and I think I want to push forward to the public, at least to show like there are some things that can really work well in this offense if we can get everybody on the same page. And even Sam Howell, we can get him to kind of be confident in what he's saying and just let it rip on time. Those are some things that I want to tap into. So we got a few plays that I want to show everybody. Before we get started, as always, man, like, subscribe, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let's tap into it now. Chop it down. Chop. Okay, now let's start with the big play here for Washington. I believe this is the fifth play of the game, and everybody's seen this on Twitter already, but you got the motion route towards the sideline over top of Terry, right? Where he checks down. It's like it's 2nd and 10. So you get the first down with a 12-yard gain, right? But ultimately, when I mentioned previously that you got to hope that Sam Howell is confident in what he sees and just lets it rip, this is one of those examples. Now, I think one thing to note, the Cardinals are in cover 4, right? So you have that safety or in that corner who are on the top of the screen. They are essentially, first off, 3 is flat-footed. I believe that's Budda Baker. And your cornerback is covering Terry, has his focus on Terry. So there's nobody really accounting for the wheel route, right? So the wheel route is wide open. But you have to ask yourself, what exactly was Sam Howell looking at in this instance, right? Was he looking at Terry? Was he looking at Bieniemy? I can't tell you with a matter of fact that he was looking at Bieniemy. So I'm just going to say he was looking in that direction. So he had two receivers that he could have went to, and maybe he panicked. Mind you, this is great protection, by the way, on the 5th play of the game. Like, this is very solid. You got 2 double teams. You got 1 double team, and then you got 3 man-on-man blocking situations. But what he does, he ultimately checks down or looks away from the left side and goes towards Jahan Dotson for a 12-yard gain, right? And you see he's able to see the field with his vision and work the progressions. But when you have somebody streaking open on the sideline, that's a clear miss. And again, when you look at the process, you don't know. As a matter of fact, kind of fast forward a bit, and you'll see it from this angle. You can't tell from where his head is if he's looking at Terry or Bieniemy. And what's confusing, or more so not clear, is when you look at Terry, you understand that Terry is covered. They're bracketing Terry. So if he's looking at Terry, it will make sense for him to look off, find his next read where Jahan Dotson is, and he wins on the deep curl route for a first down, right? So from a concept standpoint, it's a really good scheme or call from Bieniemy. Now, it is a coverage bust. That's important, right? But it's a good call against a cover 4 defense, right out the gate, because it forces the cornerback to whatever that defensive rules are. It forces that cornerback and it puts him in conflict. So you kind of have to figure out what his rule is. Is he taking that vertical, or is that safety expecting the corner to take the vertical where that wheel route is? That's the question, because obviously there was a key focus on Terry on that play. We just don't know what their rules are, but it's very good to give that eye candy to the Cardinals defense and Terry McLaurin and having a wheel off the backside of Terry. Really good play from Eric Bieniemy. Quarterback side of things, we don't know. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to just say he missed an opportunity. Next up, we're going to have another play in a couple minutes on some concepts, some switch release concepts that Eric Bieniemy used. Now here, you have a sprint out for Sam Howell, right? But the way that they use this and the way that Washington used this is really interesting, because you're seeing, I believe this is a cover 3. We're going to run it, or maybe even a cover 4. I don't remember. We're going to run it and figure it out. But the way that Washington uses this, again, it challenges the defensive rules, right? And it puts the cornerback that they're targeting in conflict. He has to make a decision. So we're going to go ahead and run it and then kind of circle back to it, right? It's very simple. Mind you, this is the 3rd and 1. So it's a really good job from Eric Bieniemy trying to find a way to get a quick yard or 2, maybe even more than a yard or 2, just to extend the drive, right? And it's simplistic in its idea, But from a schematic standpoint, it finds a way to get somebody open. So when you run the switch release right between Jahan and Terry, right, you have your outside receiver and Terry, his first steps are inward. And the same thing with Jahan, his first steps are outward on the inverse. So when you run something like this, you look at your cornerback at the bottom of your screen, right? Who is that? Number 13. His first steps are what? Towards Terry. And if his first steps are towards Terry, who's responsible for the outside man? That slot corner. So for Eric Bieniemy in scheming up this sprint out, it is not like a simple route where you have your receivers, their first steps, if they're inside in the slot, is straight up field or outside, right? And your receiver, if they're outside, their first steps aren't just straight up field or an outside release or anything. He's putting conflict on the cornerbacks in the secondary to make their decisions and communicate well. And if they communicate well, so be it. Throw the ball away. We live for another down. But if they don't, you take advantage of that. And that's what you get right here on your switch release. Easy money for Sam Howell. Good on the ball. Able to extend the drive. And we move forward. Now, this is another play in the red zone, a good first down run, which is important in the red zone. And I think this is their scoring drive. It's essential to remind everybody. Every run play isn't technically is designed to score, right? But in theory, you need some plays that either gets you a first down in short yardage situations that starts off your series in the right direction. If you get 5 yards, 4 yards on first down on a run, or maybe 2nd and 7 and you get 4 downs, 4 yards or 5 yards on a round, that is a win. And that's what some runs are intended for. They draw you up for 3 or 4 and the running back has to do the rest of the job. So for Washington here, what I really like in this situation and Eric Bieniemy is creating misdirection at the snap, right? Your first few steps for Sam Howell and your first few steps for Curtis Samuel is emulating a toss play. So, or in my eyes, a toss play, right? So what you see right here, you have half of the Cardinals defense, including their defensive line, moving with the flow of Nick Gates, Sam Cosmi, and Andrew Wiley on the right side of the offense. And then you have Curtis Samuel obviously flowing that way as well, along with Sam Howell. But what you don't see in terms of the defense is your running back in Brian Robinson, your true running back in Brian Robinson, becoming a lead block situation for the hole that Curtis Samuel is intended to hit. So good job by Sadiq Charles recovering on his block because he clearly wasn't able to sustain it initially at the point of contact. The defensive lineman is able to get past him. But now he seals him off for Curtis Samuel. And now you have your lead block in Brian Robinson downfield. And Curtis Samuel is able to take that upfield and get him a nice gain of 6 yards on first down. So for Washington, it's a very good situation to be in when you have from a 1st and 10 down to a second and 4. I don't know why I just blanked like that, but 2nd and 4 situation for Washington. So you continue to drive by keeping positive yardage and very favorable down and distance situations for your offense. So a very good job from Eric Bieniemy showing that misdirection and how you can create in the run game. So if you all listen to the Trap or Die podcast on Tuesday, I'm sure this video is probably going to be coming out on Thursday or Friday. But if you looked at the podcast on Tuesday, you saw that I shared a video to AJ and Dre in the podcast that I said I was going to share to everybody in some way. But I'm gonna run this play and we'll talk about what this was in terms of Howell taking a shot and in terms of working within Bieniemy's scheme. Now you see that Howell got a first was this first down? This was a 3rd and 2. No, wait. This is the 1st and 10. I'm sorry. So he got a 1st and 10 scramble of 5 yards. Positive gain, right? But there's a missed opportunity in this. And I want to be clear. This was going to be a very difficult pass. But as you've seen through some of the plays that Sam Howell had throughout this game alone, he can make this throw. The question is if he's confident enough to make this throw. So before you all try to check me, I'm letting you know this is verified from people who played in the league. So you're just going to have to take my word for it or not. I don't care. But you get your play action, right? So you got up top, you got somewhat of a scissors combination, but it's a little bit different. You got a post route from Terry McLaurin at the top of your screen. And then at the slot, you have Jahan Dotson running a corner route. So that corner route comes underneath, but he does a good job manipulating that safety, right? So first thing he does, let's look at Jahan. First thing he does is stem inside, right? Now he's leveling up, takes a little pressure step to get upfield. And that safety is monitoring him, right? But he takes that first step upfield, and now he's already manipulating his safety's hips, right? The safety isn't really in a good spot to really cover him as he bounces back out. That's Buda Baker. So at the top of his drop, so now that we're right here, right? And you're seeing what's going on with Jahan Dotson in the hips. of the safety, the hips of the safety. Sam Howell has reached the top of his drop. That ball is supposed to be out, and the trajectory of the ball should be where Terry is breaking on his post. So that is the purpose of this route combination right here. And it's a really good situation for Washington, because I believe that, I want to say this is their cover 2. Let me just double check. Or maybe cover 3. But anyway, coverage aside, this is a concept. This is a cover beater for Washington, a design cover beater. So at the top of his drop is where the ball is supposed to get out, as we saying. But even if you're not confident in that, to mitigate risk of injury, you're in a 1st and 10. Remember, we said that you got Brian Robinson wide open in the flats. So I'm assuming that Howell panicked, and maybe when he panics, he takes things into his own hands, which is what some quarterback does. That's what they do. But you give the ball to Brian Robinson in open space with a one-on-one right there at the sticks. That's kind of that situation where you look at it and say, all right, I need to dump it off. And we missed the opportunity right here. I think as you get further into the season, when you see a situation like this, and I said Brian Robinson, that's Antonio Gibson, my mistake, but you get what I'm saying. But if you get further to a season and you see a concept like this, I'm putting this out there now, because if he hits this, if he hits the concept, bro, and get that corner route, I told you, you got a top tier quarterback in Sam Howell if he can hit that concept, if he can hit that corner route. That's a person that's growing. I like that guy. All right, and the last thing that I want to show you all is another form of motion that essentially creates conflict in the Arizona defense, right? So what you're seeing, now you're not able to see it at the snap, but if you look at the top of your screen, it looks like Terry McLaurin is on the move, right? Which he is. That's a matter of fact. Terry McLaurin is on the move. He was on motion. He was in motion. So they started out in a trips formation. Terry McLaurin was in a tight split. So he was closest to Charles Leno on the left side. And you all know where Charles Leno is, the left tackle. And he moves over from a 3-by-1 to now a 2-by-2 with Logan Thomas on his left. So Logan is in that split, that tight split, or a slot alignment, if you want to say, right? So at that point, you're moving and you're essentially adjusting the coverage rules for the Arizona Cardinals. And this one's a little bit easier to diagnose, right? You see the single high. They're running a cover 3 defense. But if you pay attention to what's going on right here, they run another switch release concept, right? Where Logan first steps are towards the sideline, right? And he's over top of Terry McLaurin. And Terry's next steps are underneath and towards the middle of the field. So if you look at that slot cornerback, right, that's looking at Logan, he's taking the stem of Logan. And in theory, that cornerback is responsible for taking Terry. But when you run that switch release concept, what that does is create that natural pick. He's obviously reading the cornerbacks, right? But if Terry isn't going to see that this cornerback, this slot cornerback, is challenging him at all over the middle of the field, it's easy money for him to read where that slot is and where he's going, and also see where that safety is, who's playing a single high. He's getting as far back as possible. That creates a void over the middle of the field for Eric Bieniemy and his offense, and Terry gets an easy reception as we continue to move the drive. And you'll see it from this angle as well. Just kind of how they play it. 22's first steps are to his right. And he's telling, if you saw that hand right here, I might be wrong, but I feel like that's a universal signal for stay. Meaning stay on your man. I got Logan. So you'll kind of see this one more time, and this is it. It's like, it looks like Terry did no work, and essentially he didn't. This is all Eric Bieniemy drawing this up, but a good job by Logan Thomas making sure that he knows when he starts this route that he has to get outside and get vertical, right? So his first steps are outside, and he presses upfield because he wants that cornerback to be in conflict. He wants that slot cornerback to take him upfield as well. So now you have a clear out, because in this cover 3, somebody's supposed to be in the flats, but that flat defender has nobody to take. So he's just sitting there. And boom, first down. All right, so look, those were a few clips that I felt like that was worth sharing as we move forward into the week against the Denver Broncos. Easy money. Some things worked, some things didn't. The offensive line held up sometimes, most times I would say. And in some cases, we need Howell to get the ball out a little bit quicker so we can really see the effectiveness of Eric Bieniemy in this in this pass scheme at least. But moving forward, I'm very encouraged by the first day of Eric Bieniemy, or the first game of Eric Bieniemy. Hopefully they can build on some concepts and really have something prepared for this Denver defense, who is actually coming off a game where they weren't able to create much pressure. So who knows what this offense can do if they can get back on track against the Denver Broncos this Sunday at 4 o'clock. So with that being said, man, I'm out of here. I appreciate y'all watching. Hope you all enjoyed. And until next time, man, peace. Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Damn, set, watch him throw the ball. Man. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole, or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long, or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.